Hello, welcome once again to Piedmont United Way's Community Spotlight. I'm Pastor Jeff Light along with Jack Garber, the Executive Director of the Piedmont United Way. And Jack, another one of the Piedmont United Way's great partner agencies. Who did you bring today?
I would love to introduce Frye Smith and Sara Hall from the Skyline Community Action Partnership.
Well, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Jeff, we appreciate it. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. Yeah. Happy the prayer was wonderful, and it's certainly giving us the opportunity to talk to everybody, and we really appreciate that.
Well, you know, I'm very excited. I'm a member of the community of Rappahannock County, and so we're familiar with some of the services that the Skyline Community Partnership provides. But after just a brief overview of some of the materials that you brought and sent ahead of your interview, I see that you do so much more. So as the Executive Director, Kim, lay it on us. What is the Skyline Community Partnership? What is this umbrella and some of the main elements?
Well, that's just what we were talking about a little earlier, that in fact Skyline Community Action Partnership is one of a national movement of partnerships and an association of agencies and organizations in the business of bringing services and resources to families in need.
I saw from the video that you sent to me, Jack, that it was started by Lyndon Johnson way back in the early, during his administration.
Oh, you caught that. That's
and then from government, and then government reaches out and partners with the local communities, and so it's kind of an interesting hybrid of both government and local communities and churches and volunteers and all kinds of people working together.
That's correct, Jeff, and it was the war on poverty. We owe our existence to that. We're funded to a degree through in partnership with the government, communities that we serve, and churches, private foundations, etc. But what you said was really important, that it's a community and it's local. So our existence really is dependent on our local community and the support that we get from the community, not just with the local government, but in fact
Indeed.
Local families and clients that we serve.
Well, you have touched many of our community members. I think all of our children know someone who works in your organization from being in the public schools, those of us that have children in public school systems. But that's not the only thing that you folks do. Tell us a little bit about the services that you provide.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me just talk about the Skyline Community Action Partnership. Again, a community action agency started in about 1991. And we are designated by not only the state governor, but each community that we serve. And as a community action agency, we have an umbrella of services. And I hesitate to think of it as services necessarily, because what we want to do is help to alleviate the impact of poverty in all of the programs and resources that we provide to clients that we work with, to families, to individuals, to children. And we'll talk a little bit about that with our Head Start program in a little bit. But with our community action agency, Skyline CAP, think of us as an umbrella.
Okay.
And under that umbrella, you have we've got programs and services, our education programs and housing services and education services that hopefully bring, first of all, stability to the families and the individuals that we serve, but then eventually self-sufficiency. And really, that's the key. We're all about helping families move on to self-sufficiency. And poverty is real complicated.
Yes.
There's not always a simple solution. And as we talk a little more about that, you'll see that it takes so many different kinds of services and people to bring a person to the spot where he's realizing and seeing, okay, I can move to this next level, and I'm okay right now. I'm not in crisis. I'm doing a little more than thriving. So the services that we provide are important and critical, not only to the community, but individually to the clients that we serve.
So an individual, I know that you provide help for people who are hungry, and you make sure that they have good food at a young age. And then you also, right, one of the things?
That's just a very, very small part of our Head Start program, and that we and
Okay.
Simon is here.
So-
He'll be able to
so-
talk a little
so
more
there's-
about that as well.
So there's food, and then what other kinds of
The
helps do you
services.
come along a human being and help them as they go?
I will appreciate that. When I say education and housing, under our education services, we have our Head Start program. It's a national curriculum that we bring to low-income children
Okay.
and children with disabilities, and it does provide, as you mentioned, nutritious foods, their medical checkups, etc. But the big piece of that is family advocacy. So it's when people ask, well, what's the difference? Well, the big difference is the family advocacy piece. You can have your child in a daycare or in a with a curriculum, etc. But do they always have that family piece where you have a person or someone who works at Skyline CAP who's actually working with the moms or working with the families or the dads to make sure that, you know, some of their needs might be met, not just in the classroom. So that's our Head Start program. We also have a Project Discovery program, which is the next level. It's for 9th through 12th graders. Now that's only offered in Madison County. First of all, let me say this, that we're a designated community action agency in Madison, Greene, and Orange County. Our services do overflow a little bit, especially here in Culpeper for the housing counseling, in some areas in foreclosure prevention. But our Project Discovery, offered in Madison at the high schools for 9th through 12th graders, and it's for those students who may not be really sure about going on to college or going on to a trade school or vocational school.
Excellent.
So we want to encourage them to some degree to go on to secondary education, because we
And to
know that's
explore
where they
those
need to
options,
explore
yeah.
those options. So we've got our Head Start program, we've got our Project Discovery. Now under the housing, which is our next largest program, our rental assistance program, everybody's probably a little familiar with that, where it is we offer or we administer the program that brings subsidized rental vouchers to families in need, families and individuals and folk with disabilities. They may have a hard time paying for an apartment, you know, with the cost, or it's very expensive. So at no time would they be paying more than 30% of whatever their income is. So these vouchers are available for some people. It's a very limited program in that those vouchers are always, you can imagine, once a person has that, unless they move on to a better job and they're able to move off of the program, which is something we encourage, and we work with these families to help with their budgeting and whatnot. And Sara also works with some of those families with their rental workshops, financial skills workshops, literacy, financial literacy.
I'm so glad to hear all this. I'm so
there's
limited in my
so many.
understanding.
Yeah, so it's and either Kim or Sara can answer that. It's more than just helping people out with housing.
Absolutely.
It's educating them to help them help themselves. Okay.
And this year, one of our themes, if you will, because every year we have a community action partnership month in May, and we sponsor a poster contest. And one of the themes this year is getting started. It's really hard, but if you just get started, and it's whether it's saving or deciding that mindset to put a little bit away, so that you can work with a budget, because the first thing a person says, I just don't have the money. Well,
Right.
what are we going to do? But you know, if that mindset is there, so that's one of our themes this year. And again, we try to incorporate the other piece of community action, Skyline CAP. And I'll mention too, we're not alone. There's over 30 or so community action agencies and organizations in the state of Virginia alone.
Wow.
I'd say a few years ago, the governor and community action partnership, we all decided that we wanted to cover the state. We wanted to make sure that we were all there doing what community action was set up to do. And I will also say that no matter what the funding cuts, Community Action's vision has pretty much remained the same. Even though the funding isn't always there, we're all about alleviating poverty, moving families stability and then on to self-sufficiency.
Well, let's go ahead and check out some perspective from you, Sara. Now, you are one of the elements underneath this very great umbrella, and you're providing assistance in the housing area.
At Skyline CAP, I'm a certified housing counselor, and Skyline CAP is a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, which means we meet certain standards and criteria.
Yeah.
Sure.
By virtue of the economy, I mostly do foreclosure prevention, people who have lost jobs or laid off, experience some type of crisis, they struggle with their payment on their mortgage, staying current. I function as a liaison, so to speak, between the client and the mortgage company.
Wow, that's great.
Help with that whole difficult process of submitting paperwork, but then also too looking at that budget, at that spending plan, is keeping the house feasible, there's a lot of difficulty in it.
Sure.
But helping the homeowner, hopefully providing them with the tools that would help them get back on track, stay on track, whether that means staying in the home or having another option. I also do, which is kind of the foundation of everything, financial education workshops. So helping people see where they spend, how they spend, where they can cut back on spending, what their priorities are, how what they value in their lives affects how they spend.
That's great. And you do this for how many different counties?
For our service area of Madison, Orange, and Greene, but it does spill over into other counties because mortgage companies are now required to refer their borrowers who are defaulting to a HUD-approved agency. And for those counties near us that don't have a designated HUD-approved agency, they inevitably call us.
Wow.
And we inevitably help them.
That's very busy.
Yeah. So, give us an idea. How many folks are you working with usually? And I realize that folks come and go, and but what's your normal client load here in our area?
It varies, but I would say on a regular basis for the foreclosure prevention, probably about 5 active cases at any given time. And when I say active, there's typically a long waiting period of when we initiate the paperwork process.
Sure.
There's typically a trial period that they get approved for, and that whole time it's not as intensive, but I still touch base with them to be sure that they're still on track with their spending, they're saving what they can, that sort of thing.
Well, and you're giving them the counseling to help them to make better decisions, and it's a very special skill that you must bring to the table, because each of these situations is a little bit different. Each, of course, the people are different, and their children are involved. Their home situation, whether it's an apartment or a condo or a standalone home or whatever, so different. And I hear that you're covering all of this.
One of the things that those of us who work with folks know is that most people are right on the edge of losing everything. They live paycheck to paycheck. Any kind of crisis that happens, a loss of employment, health problems that require a lot more money than they expected. Any of these can throw people into a crisis situation. And so what you do really is help people through those crises.
I had a client ask me, or in a workshop context, I've never heard of a housing counselor. What is a housing counselor? And it's almost like what type of a counselor is a housing counselor not? We touch on, not that I'm an expert in these, but you see substance abuse issues, relationship issues, job skill issues, education issues. But you do have to be able to work with and empower that individual or that individual situation that's in front of you.
And might I say that that is a good point that Sarah's making, because as I mentioned earlier about the stability first and then the self-sufficiency, because oftentimes clients coming to Sara, because you are faced with those kinds of things, sometimes the entire agency becomes involved because they do need to be stabilized first. To understand, that they're not in fact going to be out in the street, that they're actually, going to be homeless. So let's work with that first. And Sarah's so good at her relationships with families and how she's able to make them feel comfortable.
What a gift.
It really is.
We've come to the point where we need to take a break. Sarah, thank you so much. It's so fascinating to talk to you. And Kim, we'll be right back with more friends right after this message of the Skyline Community Partnership.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Cooper, host of the show Hidden Goal. I'm a single mother and I work 2 jobs, 3 if you include hosting TV shows. So when I have problems with my vehicle, I need it fixed right, I need it done quickly, and at an affordable rate. So I bring it here to A+ Automotive. They do all major repairs, including brakes, transmissions. They even replace engines. Thinking of buying a car? Bring it here for their pre-purchase inspection. I know I wish I had. They even do minor body work at very affordable rates. Call for an appointment at 540-829-7956 and tell them Sharon sent you. A+ Automotive, located in the warehouses behind Target and Martin's.
Hello, thank you once again for joining us here at Piedmont United Way's Community Spotlight. We're talking with Kim, and now Simon is with us, Jack, of the Skyline Community Foundation.
Skyline Community Action Partnership, exactly. I've been in United Way since 1976,
Wow.
and community action programs have always been in every community that I've been in, and I know Head Start has always been one of the real primary programs, early childhood education. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Head Start does in our community and the kinds of things that are available for folks.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, too, that our Head Start falls within the Skyline Community Action Partnership, Skyline CAP, array of services and programs. It is one of our major programs, and we are so very, very proud of this program. It's a stellar program. We've had wonderful federal reviews. It is most of our programs are highly regulated, audited, so that if funding is coming our way, you're assured that it's being spent the way it's supposed to be spent. So
Compliance is a very important issue.
Critical,
Yeah.
not only or you understand that,
Yeah.
not just with that funding, but also with the children and the services that are being
Sure.
provided to them. And Simon, again, is our Head Start director. He oversees, we're allocated for about 198 children, but through the year we see more children, and he can tell you a little more about how our services work and how our programs operate within the counties and in some school systems as well. So it's all about the partnership.
Great. Well, Simon, thank you for joining us.
Oh,
and we
thank
really
you.
appreciate you being here. So you're ahead of all of this. As a parent in the Rappahannock County public school systems, I'm familiar with your organization. I never quite understood all of the ins and outs. I'm so glad you're here. Tell us about the program that you manage.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. So our program, Head Start, started in 1965, as you know, as we talked about earlier with Lyndon Johnson and the War on Poverty. And then Skyline Community Partnership went ahead in 1991 and got the Head Start grant. And then over the next few years, it expanded into 6 counties now. So we cover Madison, Greene, Rappahannock, Shenandoah, Page, and Warren counties.
Wow, that's a big area, and you're over that all. That's
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Tell us about
It's a
it.
challenge.
There's some pretty drives over the Skyline Drive as we go around. So you see 198 kids overall that we work with, 3 and 4-year-olds. And they can turn 5, but they can't go to kindergarten. They have to stay in preschool until they're age eligible for that. But so the Head Start program, its main goal overall is 2 big things. One, to help out with poverty, obviously. So it has the education of the preschoolers itself, which I really believe our main goal is actually to build a relationship with these children in the school system along with their families. So we concentrate academically a lot on social emotional issues with these children. Out of our kids, 100% of them are in poverty or they have a disability. And so out of the overall group, 20% of our students last year had disabilities.
I noticed that in some of the paperwork where we actually had children looking like they were accommodated in wheelchairs and things like this. Some of them then quite severely disabled that you are working with.
Yeah, we try to match them up. We work real closely with the school system. So if we have real strict disabilities, so to speak, we'll partner with them as we move through. The vast majority of the disabilities are speech, but speech is one of the number one hindrances for education. If you especially with these young children coming from at-risk backgrounds, it's frustration. So it's a lot of emotions early on. And when you get a child 3 or 4 that's having those troubles at that young age, it can be very impactful throughout their life. So not only do we have our overall curriculum, which everyone is probably familiar with your science and your social studies and your history and your math, but we also run and we're fortunate enough to earn a grant for Owls Pals, which is a puppet program that we run with the children. On an annual basis, which everyone really loves. It gives the teacher a little bit of a break because it's a scripted program, but the kids love learning through the puppets. But the puppets talk about relationships, emotions are really big with this age group. So 3 and 4 year olds, it's a lot of them are dealing with loss. Sadly, 80% of these children are from single parent homes as they come in, so it helps them. And then we try to portray that on a monthly basis with our POPS meetings that we have, where the parents come in and actually do activities with the children, so that they can learn where their child is as well, and they can help foster their relationship not only with the school but with each other. So that's another big component of the education department. And then from there we go to our other 2 main areas are health. So with health, again, with having this more at-risk population, transportation is an issue. As Jack mentioned, once one service goes, sometimes other ones do too. So all the children, we make sure that they have a vision screening, hearing screening, dental screenings, and mental health consultants. We have mental health consultants come in 3 times a year and do overall observations of the children to make sure these children, not only are they prepared educationally, but they're also prepared health-wise. I mean, for moving forward within education.
It is so much more than I had imagined. I mean, I honestly was so ignorant to think that it had just to do with a little bit of healthy food when they came to school. And here, you're really preparing these children so that when they do enter kindergarten, they're shored up in all of these spectrums so that they can succeed.
Oh, sure, yeah, and we're hitting on a lot of basic items like you mentioned. So we follow USDA, so we serve over 50,000 meals a year through the school systems to these children. But we also have a nutrition component where we're teaching kids the very finite things about food, colors, vegetables, fruits. What's the difference? Does anyone know what a tomato is? I don't know. But they're teaching the kids those types of things. What are fruits? What are vegetables as they move through to help us those outliers that they may need. They also help with the basics such as teeth brushing. So in Head Start, they're mandated to brush their teeth after breakfast and after lunch as well. But it's curtailed for this particular population. To get those needs and those skills in those families to provide them with hopefully a brighter future. And then the last component is the family component. So it's the family advocacy. So 2 of the biggest lacks of our clientele are community involvement, which is why we're so helpful. Glad to be partnered with United Way, but community involvement and advocacy, so going out and sharing that with others. So those are 2 parts that we really try to highlight within our family advocacy plan. So the social worker goes into the home visit's part of it to make sure the family's comfortable, so all the families are visited in their home a couple times a year, and they'll talk to them about the community and what's out there for them and how they can get involved in the community, because that's a sense of health overall, and that's what we're really striving to reach for them.
The whole program is aimed at breaking the cycle of poverty, because so many times if your parents are in poverty, you come already with a deprived background, and the Head Start program, early childhood education, is mostly aimed at preparing children to be able to pick up in the 1st grade or kindergarten or wherever to learn like normal without having that deprived background, and it's a lot of the parents are just because they had a deprived background are unprepared to give their kids the kind of background, the early education they need to be school
Fantastic
ready.
program.
One
I'm
of
so
the
glad to see that.
one of the definitions of poverty, and you kind of touched on that, is or lacking resources.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we hope, that our services and our programs, and especially, with our Head Start program there, it's making those resources available so that, as you said, that child can go on and hopefully succeed.
Well, and the early years are critical. Within the first 5 years of a human's life, you develop 90% of your brain. So it's very critical to live in a safe place during those biological years, so to speak. And then by third grade, your reading skills are a high predictor of what reading level you're on of your graduation for high school. By third grade.
Wow.
We're learning more and more how important early childhood is. And you'll see on a national and on a state level, they're putting a lot more resources into early childhood. And Head Start is the leader in the world, I believe, in providing this for at-risk children. That's our specialty. So we love our partnerships. We bring in all kinds of other community members in on our services and try to fit that specific need and that specific niche. And I was going to say, one way just to kind of put a lot of people may not be as familiar with what a 3 or 4 year old is like, but one of my favorite things about a 3 and 4 year old is if you all may remember whenever you were a kid and thinking, what am I going to be when I grow up? And maybe a fireman or a nurse, or but when you ask a 3-year-old, especially, and possibly even a 4, they may say a fire truck. Or a pony, because to them the possibilities are really limitless. So what we're trying to do is provide the environment to make that possible. That they can be what they want to be and be healthy and be able to grow as whatever their potential is, despite whatever factors are hitting them on the side. So we appreciate that they have the opportunity to do such.
Well, thank you so much. We've got just maybe 30 seconds left. So Kim and Simon, thank you. And Sarah that was with us earlier, thank you so much and for what you do. How can people contact you?
Well, our administrative office is located right here in Madison County. We have our website, www.skylinecap.org. We're also on Facebook. I would like to mention also
we share on our Facebook site your Facebook site.
Absolutely, we're a partner, a United Way partner, and again, the partnerships are so very important. We are a local community action agency, and as such, we try to provide services and bring in partners as well to work with us. Next week I'm sorry if you don't mind my saying, on the 25th we do have a savings fair in Madison County at the Fire Hall. And we're bringing in a number of sponsors, whether it's bankers, realtors, I think the 529 program for college savings plans, those folk are going to be there.
That's great.
So that if folk are just interested in getting started, hopefully the savings fair will give them some idea.
And the idea behind that, if I remember from looking at the materials, is you're going to get a tax return, a tax refund. Why not set some of that aside for your future?
Or at least start to think about that. Start to think about what you can do as opposed to what you may have been doing, because those habits are hard to break.
Well, I hope folks will contact you. I hate to cut off this great conversation, but we really do find ourselves at the end of time. So thank you so much, Kim, Simon, and Sarah from Skyline Community Action Partnerships, another one of the great Piedmont United Way partners. And friends, that's it for our show today. Thank you. If you'd like more information, contact them directly or through the Piedmont United Way website, www.piedmontunitedway.org. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.